At LinkedIn, we know hiring is a big deal for your small business. Sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming. LinkedIn uses data that you can't find anywhere else to give you the best candidates, all so you can feel confident you're hiring the best person for the job. And even a little hiring bliss. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
Hey, I'm Meredith Root, and you are listening to the Afternoon Snack Podcast. On today's episode, Alex and I are going to spend some time talking about habits. What are habits? Where do they come from? Why do we form them? And can we rebuild them? We're going to talk about the science, the brain chemistry, the brain structure, and plenty of anecdotal stories about ourselves and people who we know when it comes to building habits as simple as flossing your teeth, to not biting your fingernails, to squeegeeing showers, building exercise routines, and changing how we see ourselves through the things that we do every day. Our goal isn't to pass along hacks. It's to leave you with some really helpful takeaways and tools as you try to install changes, big and small, into your life. Let's get into it. Welcome. We're here. We're on video. I picked my greasiest day to do a video pod.
I'm also kind of greasy.
Like, what is this doing? I'm in
No,
between.
you look good.
I
You look good.
Like,
your hair actually looks really good greasy.
It does.
Does mine?
Yours is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because mine doesn't look as good when it's like freshly cleaned. It's too puffy.
Yeah. You need like a day.
Yeah, at least one day.
But you don't really like how that feels.
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
So, therefore, you are puffy. No, mine's more like it's sort of just in between lengths. So, if I look straight on, it's good. To the side, not
No,
as
you
good.
still look good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that.
You look really good with a hat. It's a good length for a hat. It's like hockey hair. You have hockey hair right now.
Do I?
Yeah.
Like hockey salad? Like that's cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's to cover up our thermostat. Yeah. So, okay. Timestamp. It's like mid-November, which is kind of when we gear up for, honestly, sadly, indoor training season. But like habits challenge is coming up. We have some cool things coming up. So today's episode is going to be about that. Sort of the science of habits and dispelling some myths and talking about them. And I think it'd be really cool. But I do want to talk about a bit about this initiative that we're on again, which is sort of year 2 of trying to get more women to do Unbound.
I love it.
I mean, you say that you're not doing Unbound.
No,
though.
I'm not.
How come?
But I'm still part of it.
You are.
I'm support staff for the initiative, for you.
Yeah.
It's important that I don't do everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's fair. And even if it was fair, I don't want to. I like being the support person and being present and being able to cheer and support you and just doing that.
And if you're doing the longer distances, which I do, the 100 or the 200, you have to have a support crew. Like you have to bring your own crew, which means you either have to bring them or you have to do crew for hire. And I like that you're my crew. I don't like that you're my mechanic, but I've been really lucky in that I haven't really needed you to be a mechanic yet.
I did run around to find you a mechanic last time.
And I'm glad I didn't see that because I think that would have stressed me out a lot.
I am a very calm. Every year that goes by, every year that I do, I become more calm, cool, and collected. So out of 0 being super calm, cool, and collected, and 10 being completely out of control, the first year I was at about a 12.
I remember that.
Last year I was about 11.5.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this year I drop down to an 11 out of 10.
I hope so. I'm sure people get a real kick out of you, though.
I am frantic.
Yeah. It's like hair on fire, kind of.
Yeah.
It's amazing to behold. I'm impressed, and I'm the one that's doing the race. So, okay, little background. Unbound is a gravel race in Emporia, Kansas. It's honestly probably one of the biggest gravel races in the world. It's one of the first ones. Like, they've been running this race for like 20 years. I think this year is the 20th anniversary of Unbound. So, also a really cool year to do it for that reason. There are the marquee distance is the 200 mile. The 100 mile is a really popular distance. They have the 350 mile, which is growing in popularity. And then they also have a 50 mile and a 25 mile. So last year, we got involved with this initiative called More Women, More Miles to get basically just try to get more people into the 100 and 200. And
more women specifically.
Yeah, more women. Because despite one of the co-founders being a woman, despite the race director being a woman for many years, they've always struggled to get women into that race. And I think on paper it looks really intimidating because it's like 100 miles, it's 200 miles, right? Like that's the race that people know about and they hear about. And then, YouTube doesn't help anything because you see the years where there's mud and it looks really crazy.
You're watching the elites, which is usually what's broadcasted.
Yeah.
Kind of like CrossFit. Like CrossFit's not the CrossFit Games.
No, exactly.
But people think it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of similar.
And so that's in addition to all the barriers that exist like outside of a specific race. And so, the registration, I think in the 100 and 200 mile for women, it tends to be like around between 11 and 15%. It floats between those numbers. So last year we basically like doubled the number of women in the 100 and 200 mile distances, which is like pretty cool. And I didn't have a lot of I was participating in the initiative, but didn't necessarily have a ton of awareness of that. And then on the shakeout ride, like the women's only shakeout ride, there were so many people that came up to me, rode up to me. We were riding together and we're basically like, I'm here because of you. And I was like, me? This is my second year doing this race. I haven't even been gravel riding for that long. So it kind of, and the number of people that said something across the weekend, like honestly made me very emotional just because I didn't expect to have that level of influence in a sport that I'm like pretty new to. And
we had 4 people just staying with us.
I know.
That were brand new to yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't care what women do. I want them to do things like step outside of kind of like traditional roles and our comfort zones because I mean, almost every space is traditionally designed for men and it's welcoming to men and not necessarily welcoming to women. So that is the initiative again this year. We're taking it on independently, which is also really cool because it allows us a bit more flexibility in how we do things. So it doesn't necessarily have a name yet. Maybe we should name it. I don't know. But I am encouraging women to sign up and register for the Unbound lottery. It's not a guaranteed entry, but there are fewer women who register. So like the odds are in your favor. So if you did the 50, sign up for the 100. If you did the 100, consider the 200. Like think about what that might look like for you. It's not a linear increase in volume. Like I think that's the part that people get stuck on is like, well, it's double what I did last year. But it doesn't mean that it's double the training. There's some little things that have to happen and have to change. But it's like pretty doable. And that is sort of the launching off point for our bike club that we're starting, that people have been bugging me about for years, but I haven't had the right entry point. I haven't really known how I want to format it, but everything kind of clicked together when I had a conversation with a few people about what it could look like. And so that's going to start in January, and it's going to support people, men, women, anyone in between. But definitely the women preparing for Unbound, but it's for anyone who wants to start riding in, late spring, early summer. Sign up for any race, late spring, early summer. But I really am kind of encouraging people to do Unbound. And then later in the summer, because Unbound's like fairly early in the season, it's late May. And then there are tons of races later in the season that you can jump into in US and in the US and then also in Canada.
Yeah. And I'll just say that it's open to men and non-binary people as well. But the initiative is for women.
Yeah.
But the bike club, it can be for anyone. And that it's open to beginners.
Yes.
And that's the whole point. If you're very beginner, it can be so much more digestible and less scary if you're doing it with a community and with some guidance.
Yeah, and having a helping hand on basic bike maintenance, like bike handling.
Choosing a bike.
How do I choose a bike? What tires do I run? Do I need to be thinking about tires? What air pressure do I put in those?
Nutrition.
Yeah, anything,
Gear.
everything related to riding bikes and like feeling comfortable and confident, like that's what Bike Club's about. In addition to providing like training opportunities, unique experiences at certain races, community events, webinars. It's really about breaking down as many walls as we can for people, especially women.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple of things, or I guess, and this is not surprising because like we get frustrating feedback, and I'm not frustrated at people for having feedback. So I never want it to sound like that if we're discussing feedback that we've received. But we straddle the border, really. Like we are in Canada, we are a Canadian company, but I'm American. A lot of our community is American. A lot of the people that we work with are American. A lot of the events that we do are US events. It doesn't mean that those are the only events that we do, but by volume, they're just more. There are more of them traditionally. They are bigger. They are more well known. I'm drawn to them because it's where I'm from. I don't know. And so we've had a few people kind of, be a little, I think, grumpy about the fact that we are promoting a U.S. event, like Canadians specifically, who are like, well, why don't you program a big Canadian event? Like, what if we don't want to cross the border? Like, I'm supporting Canadian businesses, and that means like definitely not supporting American businesses. And I understand that. I do. I struggle with, and part of this is coming from a better, honestly, understanding of myself and through therapy. It's like you can have needs that don't rely on you like quashing something else, right? The sentence can be, I'm more interested in doing Canadian events, period. That can be the end of the sentence. It doesn't have to be, I want to support Canadian events and not cross the border because I don't want to support American businesses because this. I'm like, how do you think that makes people feel? How does that make me feel like I'm an American? There are people that I care about who are, most of the people I care about, my whole family's American. I have friends that are American. I have business owners that I'm close with who are American. There are races and events that I love that are U.S. events.
And a lot of those people did not vote for Trump.
Yeah, and it's like...
Not that it's all about that, but most of it is.
Yeah, and I struggle with, like, is that the impact? Is that where we create impact? Is that the impact that we want to have? I think people's frustrations and their fears and their angers are righteous. I think that those feelings are valid. It's just like, make sure we're mad at the right people, and let's make sure that we're impacting the right people. Like the irony of someone saying that to us on Instagram while using a US-based tech app, one of the mega conglomerates that's causing so many problems. The irony is like it
was one of Trump's puppets.
Yeah.
For a moment.
Yeah, and so I'm creating impact by disengaging with the big conglomerate companies to the extent that I'm able, and that means that I can continue to support small race organizers, small events, especially events where getting women to the start lines visually can have a massive impact. Like, think about the impact. Fernie, I love Fernie. I love the events here. The Fernie Gravel Grind, one of my favorite races of the year, and we support that one. They have 50% registration from women. Those are the numbers that exist. But part of that is it's BC, it's Fernie. Like, that's the community here. Mm-hmm. Kansas, the middle of Kansas, like Corn Belt, Kansas. That's not the situation there. And so I think about, like, how does it look to a girl to see a group of women ride by on bicycles? Like, it sounds so silly and so small, but like that can change someone's life. And all you need to do, go listen to Kate Verano talk about how she discovered cycling. If you don't know who Kate Verano is, she works for Zwift. She's like the director of women's initiatives or whatever. Like, that was how she discovered cycling, was she went to watch a men's race and saw a group of women go by. And it was like, ding, I didn't know women rode bikes. Mm-hmm. And that started her career. And now she's working for one of the biggest virtual cycling companies in the world. But it wouldn't have happened had she not had that exact experience. And so That's why I am pushing women to go to Unbound. That's why I go to Unbound, because I want to put myself in spaces that are mostly men for visibility. I'm going to do the other events for fun because I love them, but like that's why I'm going to Kansas. And like, is Kansas a scary place? Not really. It's scary if you think it's scary in your head. Oh, it's the South. People are no, they're like.
But you're also Unbound is one of those things where, yeah, sure, you're in Kansas, sure, you're crossing the border, you're in airports. Like, once you get there, it's this pocket.
Yeah.
The race is so well run, it's so big. The community is unmatched. It's like it's so inclusive. And it's so many different levels of people on bikes, and there are people racing, and there are people just doing their very first gravel ride, and it just feels like I belong. I don't even do gravel. The first time we went there, I didn't even do gravel, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm buying a t-shirt.
I
I'm
love
wearing
this
it.
place. The crazy thing is, okay, and this I'll get off my soapbox here in a second. But the cycling community is so unique in that way that you can literally pick it up and put it anywhere. Because look, like on paper, if you were to say, okay, here are 3 states where there are major gravel events: Kansas, Colorado, and Idaho. Which of those states do you think is the most progressive and will feel the friendliest for bike riders?
Colorado.
That's what most people would say, because it's the most liberal state. It's blue. But compare Unbound and Rebecca's Private Idaho to Leadville. And like I could have crawled out of my skin in Leadville.
Yeah.
I felt so unwanted. Just like as a
felt
cyclist,
red.
it was not good.
And the people in that town,
they didn't want us there.
no.
They definitely didn't want women there. It like that is just, it's like an anecdotal, like you can't judge a book by its cover, because like I would have guessed a couple years ago without experiencing any of the races that like Leadville would be the crunchiest. No, not the case. So, yeah, that's what I'll say about that. It doesn't mean that we are not hugely supportive of events occurring in Canada or even in Europe, but this is where our season starts. This is where my season starts, and I feel really, really strongly about this initiative, and I 100% understand if you personally wouldn't go do it.
Oh, yeah.
You don't necessarily need to tell us that.
You can still be part of the bike club and do a Canadian race.
Yeah.
Or not be part of bike club and do whatever you want.
Yeah, but like don't make judgments of Unbound, don't make judgments of the cycling community in Kansas, don't make judgments of us for supporting this race, because it's not like we have a lot of support to go around. This is not a scarce resource here, and we certainly don't treat it that way. So that's what I'll say about that. At any rate, I hope women are signing up. I hope people are signing up. I think Unbound is a really special thing.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Okay, gosh. Let's get back on topic for a second. I do think like it is talking about like training for a race like Unbound, or sort of shifting into winter training mode, which for anyone who doesn't live near the equator, like you definitely experience a winter somewhere. In some of the months, you do kind of have to retool some habits here and there and put some things in place. So honestly, not the worst time to be talking about habits and what they are. And we've talked about habits in a big picture kind of a way, but not really. We've never really gone deep on any of the science around them, or what they actually are, or where they come from. And so I kind of like to. I was doing research on this episode and fell back into the James Clear Atomic Habits rabbit hole, which that's a great book, and it does consolidate a lot of information about habits, but it's not the only resource out there. But I think from an understandability perspective, it's really good. But the best entry point and the best way to think about habits is kind of like just your daily actions that you do. Any daily action. Because anything that isn't a decision is a habit. And so there's this statistic, 40% of your daily actions aren't decisions. They're automatic. their habits.
So like brushing your teeth,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully flossing,
Totally flossing. Who doesn't do that?
taking medication or supplements,
Feeding your animals.
feeding your animals, feeding yourself.
Yeah. Putting shoes on, picking your socks, bundling up if it's chilly, turning lights on.
Driving,
Think about
putting the keys in the car, locking the house. Yeah, all this stuff.
Yeah, slowing down if traffic is slowing down. So there's obviously like a spectrum of habits. But to some degree, like we can reprogram some of them, and it does help to understand kind of like what they are. So let's do a quick definition. What is a habit? What are the steps?
The steps are cue, routine, reward. So I guess you could define it as something that is a behavior that is automatic as a result of being reinforced over time. How'd I do?
And yes, and brought about by a specific trigger. So there's something that occurs that is the cue, and then when you experience that trigger or that cue, your brain goes into this automatic mode where it starts doing the things that it is programmed to do. So think about like you walk into a room and it's dark. What do?
Turn the light on.
Why?
Because it's dark.
Well, what's the cue?
What's darkness, not being able to see.
And then the action is
turning the light on,
and the reward is
being able to see.
And that reinforces the habit.
Right. So what about something like walking the dogs or working out?
Yeah. That's like there is a level of complexity involved in certain habits. And so that gets into and we will get into this in more detail, but that gets into sort of like the dopamine production associated with it, the sense of accomplishment. There are more like there's the really basic sort of like, we're in our amygdala reptile brain survival kind of habits. It's dark, turn light on. Like, kind of caveman stuff. Not that cavemen had to like build fires and stuff, but if cavemen had light switches, they would definitely turn them on. But the real basic stuff, and then the things that are a little more complicated, but are definitely habits.
Right.
And when you think about it, so talking about, cavemen, and humans are so complicated because we, unlike, other critters out there in the world, experience emotion and fear and all of these things. So even like feeling a certain emotion can trigger an action. So when you think about like, why do humans as a species have a fear of being alone? And what does that feeling do for them? And it's because when, we were cave people, if someone had a preference for being alone, they probably would get killed. They wouldn't, their likelihood of survival would be less. And so that fear of being alone, and then shoot, I'm alone, I better go find people, my family, my friends, my tribe, whatever, so I can be with them. That's all to increase survival likelihood. And it increases then the likelihood that humans reproduce. So evolutionary perspective. Unless you're gay. But there's a whole evolutionary argument for gay people too, and that's why there are cases of homosexuality in like every species. Okay. So besides like increasing survival, habits help us conserve brain energy. Like imagine every automatic thing that you do was a decision that you had to stop and make.
I don't know when I would have time to worry. Because if you're driving and you're worried about where you're going, even if you're going somewhere you always go, whether you put your turning light signal on, how to start the car, thinking about braking and going and gas pedaling.
Yeah.
That's when I do my best worrying. Right? So if I'm thinking about all of that stuff, where would those worries go?
Yeah. You would have no time for it.
Right.
Which maybe that would be a good thing. But okay, what it does, all jokes aside, is it allows you to conserve mental energy so that you can stay tuned into environmental situations that are important and relevant. So
like dangers.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the video of the person dribbling the basketball, and they're like, count how many times this person dribbles the basketball. And it's a video, and it's a person dribbling. And there might be another person around kind of like defending, but the whole objective is you're going to count the number of times that person dribbles the basketball. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then at the end, it's like, how many times did a person dribble the basketball? And you're like, 37. You feel all like, I got it. I definitely didn't mess that up. And then they're like, yeah, but did you see the person in the gorilla suit that walked through the background? And you don't see it.
Yeah.
You're so like tuned into this one thing that isn't really a relevant part of the scene at all, that you miss this like super weird thing happening in the background. And so that would be the impact if you did have to have awareness for every single automated thing that goes on, is you would miss the big things, like, Sasquatch potentially trying to attack you.
Imagine if you had to think about every single step you took.
Or breath.
You wouldn't be able to focus on anything outside. Something coming and getting you. A tree falling.
Yeah. It's crazy. So that's kind of like, that's sort of the evolutionary impetus for habits. I'm going to pause. This is like a mid-roll ad for us. It's not organic. It is organic. Our habits challenge is coming up. So when this episode is released, it will be about a week ahead of sign up. So the habits challenge we do every single year, from basically American Thanksgiving to New Year's. So this year it's going to run December 1st to December 31st. So the month of December, which also corresponds to, the Monday after Thanksgiving and whatever the 31st is.
For some, the hardest month of the year.
The holiday season, a time when we forego our own healthy habits to give too much of ourselves and our energy to people we don't even like. And we want to help you not do that this year. We want you to give at least some of your energy to you. And that is why every year, including this year, we are doing our annual Holiday Habits Challenge. It's basic stuff. There's daily habits. It's structured. And they range from things like, hey, when you wake up, drink a glass of water, all the way up to like daily movement, workouts, walks, whatever it is that you commit to. And the idea is that you kind of take a look at what we have and think, what do I want to work on? What will feel right to me? What will feel good? You don't have to do everything, and then commit to that for the entire month. So if it's a commitment to working out and movement, some days it might be a 60-minute workout. And then on a day, we don't want you to work out for 31 days straight. Just put a pin in that. So on a rest day or a day where you're not working out, or maybe you can't because you're traveling, it's like, okay, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk, or I'm going to do 10 minutes of push-ups and air squats. So it can be varying degrees of the thing. The only thing that matters is you check that box for 31 days. And it allows you to kind of focus on yourself, during a time where we tend to not focus on ourselves. And it removes the scary feeling from the New Year's, where you feel like you have to sort of catch up from all the bad things that happened over the holidays. So, and like the last few years, we're running it as a fundraiser for the Looking Out Foundation. So sign up for that reason. You get entered in to win prizes. We have raised over $170,000 over the last 3 years doing this challenge, which is crazy. So I'm really excited to crack 200,000 total fundraising this year, which I think we will do. And it's for a good cause, and with the support of our sponsors and our partners, you guys are entered to win some really cool like Garmin gear, Trek. Who else? Looking Out Foundation is donating some stuff to us this year, which is cool. So yeah.
And to go back to the US versus Canada thing, the Looking Out Foundation supports other foundations and organizations worldwide and globally.
Yeah.
And that is why we like them. They also provide help very quickly to people in emergent need. And they also help the LGBTQ plus community as well, which obviously we're a part of. So.
Yeah. And like last year, they are very swift with their funds, but they do a lot of due diligence with who they send money to from a charitable organization standpoint. And so last year I connected with the new director of fundraising at the Looking Out Foundation, and she was kind of like, well, if you could dog ear your some of your fundraising for something specific, what would it be? And I was like, well, I'm from North Carolina, and Hurricane Helene had happened that fall, and we had already donated quite a bit of money to that. So I was like, that obviously anything adjacent to LGBTQ is very important to us, and I don't know if those things intersect, but that would probably be like, dream
Animals and animals.
Yeah. So I don't know if those intersect, but that would be kind of like where I would send it. She's like, okay, that's good to know. We will let you know where we end up sending your funding, just so you're aware. And she got back in touch with me like a month, maybe 6 weeks later, and had found an organization that was out of Madison and Buncombe County in North Carolina, and working specifically with relief for like LGBTQ people in that area. And I was like, amazing. Like, you did all that work for us. So yeah, we really like that foundation, and we'll continue to support them and appreciate your support and us supporting them. Okay. Shall we get back to habits?
Let's do it. Let's talk science.
The neuroscience of habits. So I know you're like itching to talk about basal ganglia.
I actually am.
Are you? Yeah.
Well, my degree's in psychology.
I knew
so
it.
I'm familiar with these terms.
Yeah.
These parts of the brain.
So the brain is more than just gray and white matter. There are different areas in it.
Depends on who you are.
In those areas, there are different like productivity units and the way that it creates pathways, depending on what's the main function of that area. Like, you can actually watch brain activity occur as people do things like build habits. And we've seen the same thing with like the mid-cingulate cortex with challenging oneself with doing things like cold plunges, but not cold plunges if you like cold plunges. You have to not like cold plunges for the mid-cingulate cortex
to grow.
Yeah, exactly. Anterior mid-cingulate cortex. That's that one. So
mine would explode. That's how much I hate cold plunging.
Yours would get so big, but it's a good thing. It means you should do it.
Doctors would be like, you have a tumor. And I'd be like, no.
That's just my anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Thank you for your concern. I cold plunge. I hate being cold. Yeah, so that's the area of the brain, and then dopamine is the specific neurotransmitter that's like pretty
problematic for people with ADHD.
And that's why we reinforce like problematic habits, like biting on my fingernails off, because the dopamine is that signal that is hey, let's do that again. That was good. And that obviously can create really bad habits. But it's
I feel like,
for
you, it's like that was a rush of dopamine. I just did something totally random that was not on my list of to-dos.
Yeah.
So like your to-do again isn't that same thing. It's like, let's find something else that isn't time sensitive today.
But it's so complicated for people with ADHD and habits. I mean, this could be its own podcast, but so you'll often see me working really hard on things that aren't super important, or they might be important, but they're definitely not urgent. And
they're important to you.
Video work, they're not even though. Like, they are, it's fun. Like, there's an immediate, like, yeah, I obviously really like working on bicycles and doing repairs around the house, but I also know there's this email that's not going to write itself. And I'll like these things that I actually do need to do that are both important and urgent, as in time sensitive kind of urgent. And I never, like, I didn't understand why that was. It's just like this frustrating thing that I know about myself until I started working with a therapist on ADHD specifically, and he was kind of like, all of those things they're just ways of procrastinating. And procrastination is a very complicated habit for people who have ADHD, because procrastination, that feeling of like, I have procrastinated and held out and held out and held out, and now I have to do this thing because it's got to be done by tomorrow. And then you get it done and you're just like, That's one of the only times that people with ADHD brains, like that type of neurodivergence, experience like a big rush of dopamine when it comes to task completion. So that's like, it's literally like reinforced from a neurochemical, neuroscience standpoint. So it helps to know that.
It does.
because it allows me to put some different tools in place. And maybe we should put a pin in this and do an ADHD habits episode.
Honestly.
Because it's kind of a different topic.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of feedback from people who listen who are like us, where one is more neurodivergent with ADHD and the other is not in that way. And
you're not normal in other ways, though.
I know. I'm like on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, even tools for how we've navigated it.
Yeah.
Or not navigated it.
Sometimes
we don't work together on certain things anymore.
Yeah. That's been a huge shift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Presentations. I remember, just a quick aside. We were supposed to do a presentation and we were flying somewhere to do it. And Meredith is that person who does presentations the night before. I'm that person that practices for the 100th time the night before. Having practiced 99 times the 2 weeks leading up. Having completed the presentation 2 weeks before. Meredith is doing it on the plane. You can imagine the stress I experienced.
The thing is, Alex, I was putting it together on the plane, but I had been working on the presentation in my head for like, I don't know, however long.
Right. Yeah. That's the problem with collaboration, though.
One of my friends, Shante Cofield, the Movement Maestro on Instagram, posted a while ago, basically like, of course I do the presentations on the way to the event. It's the best part of the process. And I was like, thank you. You get it. But she's also working by herself.
Yeah. So now we don't do certain things together. But that's fine.
I do find doing things like there is in all seriousness, there is like a thing that goes on in my head. Like I kick ideas around and they come together. But also I think doing it the last minute makes it like mandatory. You cannot go down any rabbit holes. You don't have any time for that. So it really does keep me on track.
I did just see a photo on Instagram. I don't know if you call it a meme, where this guy is on the airplane and he's sitting in the window seat and he has a piece of paper stuck to the side of his head that says, "Don't talk to me. Seriously, don't talk to me. I have to finish this report before I land." Don't talk to me because I will talk back to you and I need to get this report done before I land.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get back to the basal ganglia.
Back to it.
That is a set of subcortical nuclei. I know it was right on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, who doesn't know that?
In the cerebrum, that's the part of the brain that's involved in the integration and selection of voluntary behavior. And so when you hear about neuroplasticity, this is kind of like a major area of the brain that's capable of that, of rewiring and rebuilding and
making new neural connections.
Yeah, and just in making selective behaviors become automatic over time. Mm-hmm. And that's through, so basically learn behavior that's modified by the consequences of that behavior, both good and bad.
And this is true for like learning how to play golf.
Yeah. And
a golf swing is learning how to play golf. Refining a golf swing is neuroplasticity. You're changing connections in your brain
that impact movements in your body. Mm-hmm. One of the coolest things about specifically skill development, although this is also true for non-skill based habit formation, because golf swinging is a habit. Anything sports related is just a physical habit. One of the best ways that you can like maximize neuroplasticity with something like skill learning is to basically you do it during the day, whatever, and then you spend 10 to 20 minutes at night thinking about it, basically like going through it, like how did that feel, sort of visualizing the activity and specifically focusing on the good feelings associated with the new thing that you're trying to do. So you kind of have to like put your focus on that and then getting a bomb at sleep, like prioritizing sleep. If you're trying to learn something new or change something, sleep is like the secret weapon to that, because it basically like supercharges this basal ganglia neuroplasticity associated with like selective behaviors and patterns so that it sticks faster, which is cool. Real cool. So, we always talk about sleep in a lot of different respects, but it kind of continues to sit at the base of
everything.
Okay. So the conversation about like how habits are formed and broken and how many repetitions does it take or how much time really comes down to the context of the habit and what it is. Like we've already talked about that, the really simple stuff, light switch versus walking the dogs. So there's that myth. What's the day it takes, how many days to form a habit?
I thought it was 30, but it might be like 3 months. The number 3 is popping out at me.
There's been a few. I remember, I think I've heard 60, around 60. I've also heard something like 21, which I'm like, okay, for sure. Maybe 21 for like learning how to use a new light switch. But 21 days, not going to work for
I mean,
most
I'm
things.
going on at least 10 plus years of trying to form the habit of taking supplements.
But for you, okay, and maybe we should touch on that context because there's an actual aversion that can occur due to the like taking of pills.
Right.
And that's like a physical thing that you have to overcome. So let's put a pin in that. That'll come back around. So depends on the habit. The range that I found when I was researching was between 54 and 260 days, depending on what it is. So even 54 is like double what you hear from a lot of sources, that like 21 day, 30 day kind of thing. You're looking at actually like double that.
21.
I know. That's like, for what? Like seriously, for what? I don't know. One time I literally went 3 months without biting my fingernails.
And
Did
then
it
what?
form a habit?
And then what?
No, I bite my fingernails. But I think there's something that underlies. It's not just me making a choice. It's like that's a habit that's driven by an anxiety that I have never
Maybe like
managed.
21 days to form a bad habit. One that's very like rewarded, that's not productive. Like, I don't know, I could easily form a habit of having a beer every night in 21 days.
Yeah. Highly addicting things like nicotine would be like, that's a habit. And, you know, addiction is a habit and that's driven by dopamine.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly like highly dopaminergic and addictive sort of things I think would maybe be on the lower end.
I could form a habit of not flossing my teeth.
Yeah, that would be a quick one. But I think that the idea of a habit is like positive action. So you're inputting
Right.
something into the system. And so if maybe like you were consciously making a decision not to floss your teeth, maybe you could say that's a habit of making a not productive decision. But I think the not doing is not necessarily a habit. But if you were to put positive action in place, so someone might not floss and you wouldn't necessarily say like, I have the habit of not flossing, but you could put positive action there and build the habit of flossing.
Right.
How do you do that? It's complicated. Whereas, okay, what would be, so my fingernail biting, like that would be a bad habit. Like that's a negative habit. So let's say that if I were to identify what the cue is for that or the trigger. So like, okay, I'm feeling anxious or like something is out of my control. So the way that I like stimulate myself, and that sounds bad. That sounded not good. The way that I calm myself down through stimming, which is what that is, which produces dopamine, is by biting my fingernails. And because it makes me focus on something that isn't what I'm feeling anxious about. Could I break that? Yeah, I would have to put something else there, which I either have to put something else there or create an aversion to that thing. And I've done both. And
How did you stop biting your nails for 3 months? Did you put something on them?
I did that. Okay, so part of that was during when I was working at like in the lab when I was doing process
So like
development
wearing
work.
gloves.
Wearing gloves is a real deterrent. So I was doing a lot of lab work at the time, so it's like it just naturally isn't. It's harder to do, and I'm not gonna like take a glove off in the lab to put my hands in my mouth. That's nasty,
Right.
and super frowned upon from a like sterility standpoint. Don't do that. That may have got me fired. So yeah, not. So there's the gloves, and then there's.
Can you imagine seeing one of your coworkers seeing you in a lab, biting your fingernail through the glove?
They're like, Meredith, where did the tips to your fingers go on your gloves? You're wearing fingerless latex gloves. You know, just like
Just like totally clueless.
You're like, what? What? They're like, your gloves, your fingertips are gone. I'm like, oh, yeah. So that was one thing. And then I painted my nails. I put like clear nail polish on them. Because I don't know if you don't bite your nails, so you don't understand how amazing it is. But it's not amazing when you have to bite through nail polish. That's nasty. That's no good.
I'm like, I can't have paint on my nails because I'll pick at my nails.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that's how I did it. And I gotta say, if you've spent your whole life biting your nails and you think that they're gonna grow back and look pretty, they don't. Because you're like, my like nail bed is so short because it's like I just have nubs.
Yeah.
That when they grow out, they look horrible. They are so bad. Like the best, I basically
It's like
would
50-50 nail bed and nail.
Yeah.
Except it still doesn't extend beyond your fingertip.
Yes. It looks like I have some sort of a hand problem. So I would basically, they would grow out and then I would basically cut them almost like kind of as short, not quite as short as when I bite them, but like really short. So it just looks like I have really short nails, but they don't look like they've been bitten.
Right.
But that was way back. I got back to biting them. Yeah. You know, I was in the closet. You got to give me a break.
Right.
So anyways, factors that influence the timeline of habit formation, complexity, and how much effort it takes. So like nail biting, huge effort to put something else in place there because I did have to like regulate myself in other ways.
Right.
And it's kind of complicated, not in a planning standpoint, but like just an awareness standpoint. So that would have obviously taken a lot longer than 3 months had I stuck with it. But think about something, okay, let's think about something not nail biting. What would be an example of like a somewhat complicated habit that you can think of?
Well, the one that comes to mind is someone who maybe takes bites of food when they're prepping meals.
Okay. That's a habit. Yep. What about forming okay, so that one's tricky because it's like don't do that habit.
Oh, we're not talking about that.
Yeah, let's talk about like a new positive action.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about
maybe like an exercise routine for someone who has never like built a habit of exercise?
What about exercise or like mobility?
Mm-hmm.
Doing
just
mobility?
Something you straight up like don't do but you want to.
Yeah, that you feel would really benefit you.
Mm-hmm. So there's I think with that, like with both the mobility and exercise, and they kind of go, we'll just call it movement. Let's call it a movement habit. There's planning, like where's that going to go in the schedule? It takes time to learn. Like there's a learning aspect to that too, because if you're coming off the couch with either one of those things, that you're like, I don't have this habit. I've never done it before, so I actually like don't know what I'm doing. So there's time to learn. It takes effort because you're going to be very conscious and very aware of everything that you do in the gym. It's not going to feel like there's any kind of flow to it. So that whole thing earlier we were talking about, what if every decision, every automatic thing that you do, you had to think about, that's going to be the situation.
Like even being like, okay, bicep curls are next. Where are the dumbbells? Mm-hmm. Well, I have to go walk over the dumbbells. I have to choose what weight to use. Mm-hmm. I have to figure out where to do the bicep curls.
Yeah.
That, as silly as it sounds, is friction.
Yeah. Or like that machine is broken or someone is using what I want to be using. So now I have to like come up with an alternative. So that's just going to take longer. I think that's the one. Now we're looking at that like 250 day mark. Mm-hmm. And within that, it doesn't mean that you have to do it perfectly every single day. And I think that's sort of one of the myths around habits is that you have to be like absolutely consistent with it. When you don't, you just have to understand sort of like what's where's my floor and where's my ceiling with this particular behavior. Like this is what it looks like on my best day when I'm experiencing a lot of dopamine and a burst of motivation to do it. And then like this is where it looks like on my my worst day, which means the average is kind of right here. And as long as like the average is sort of slowly going up, like you're allowed to have bad days and off days and days where you don't do it. And that I think is actually probably one of the most important parts of long-term habit formation is accepting that.
Yeah, I think if you slip into the all or nothing approach with building a habit, if you end up with that nothing one day, then it turns into nothing every day because you're in that all or nothing mindset.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's all or something, or you use mottos like never miss twice,
Yeah.
which means you're going to be hitting it 50% of the days or 50% of the weeks, depending on the frequency of the habit, you're going to be in a pretty good spot, and you build confidence with that consistency, and then you build on that consistency. Like the other really good mindset going into this is something that I just had heard of, framed this way, is if you start struggling with the habit or something that you're trying to do more frequently or build, if you miss and you're missing and you're missing and you think, why am I missing? I just need to try harder, and we'll get to that. I need to double down. I need to do double the next day to make up for it. And that's, again, all or nothing. Like, I need to be perfect. So because I missed today, I need to do double tomorrow. Well, really, the most productive thing to do in that case is to do half the amount the next day. Make it feel easier. Hit it, check the box. And then maybe even do half the amount for another few days, or even until you have hit half the amount every day. Then you add on 25% or whatever it may be.
Yeah. The lesson in that struggle is not to double down and work harder. The lesson is less.
Yes.
And that, I think,
and less turns into more over time.
Yeah,
you just have to trust that.
Well, that it goes right into the frequency of repetition, which is a huge component to habit building, and like new habit formation. So like the more often you can do something and the more frequent the repetitions are, the faster that occurs. And so if you think about it, if you're building a habit of exercising, and this is one of the best examples that James Clear puts in his book. He's talking about someone who wants to build a habit and a routine of going to the gym from zero. And what a lot of people do on January 1st is they're like, all right, I'm going to start a fitness routine. And they go from 0 days in the gym to now they're trying to go in 5 days a week. And they burn out right away. Like you maybe a week or two and then you're done because it's too much. And you've kind of set that bar at like, if I'm not going 5 days, then I'm failing. When he basically says like, just go to the gym and walk in the door, stand there for a minute, walk out. And that you're like, that's crazy. And it is an extreme example, I will admit. I've never actually recommended that someone do that, but I have like gone pretty close to it. So if you, like, in my opinion, it's better to have someone do a 10-minute workout like 3 to 5 times a week than it is to like encourage them or sort of like open the gates to 5 days a week, because they're like, you're not going to have any sustainability there. And the frequency with those small reps allows so much opportunity to grow over time, and it builds the most important habit that there is something like a movement routine, and that is literally just showing up.
Right.
It's putting your shoes on, it's getting in your car, it's going to the gym. Everything that happens after that is a bonus, especially if you're just starting out. But if someone can't build that habit because they continue to make it too hard, then the way forward is not to just double down and white knuckle until you make it a habit. It's to make it easier so that you can make it a habit.
Yeah. I thought of like 2 little examples. And on the gym one, you can use the same approach for something like eating more fruit. So if you say, okay, I want you to eat 1 blueberry every morning. Totally doable. But it's not about the blueberry. It's about going into the fridge and getting the box of blueberries out. All you have to do is eat 1 blueberry, but you've done all the hard work to eat that 1 blueberry, just like getting to the gym. The workout isn't the hard part. It's getting yourself to the gym. It's buying the blueberries at the store. It's having them in the fridge. It's cutting up whatever, if it's not a blueberry, and then being able to grab them out of the fridge. It's creating that like routine that is associated with your eating of breakfast, and then putting it on the plate and eating it. Once it's on the plate, people eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of building consistency, the metaphor that I'm thinking of is if every day you had to throw a ball into a hole, like a big hole, you had a baseball, and you got 1 shot every single day. And if you got it into the hole, you would win money. So you could either have a small hole, just a little bit bigger than the baseball. And if you threw it through that hole, you would get $20. Or you could throw it into a giant hole that's like 20 times the size of the baseball. And you win $5. Which one at the end of 30, 60, 100 days, 1,000 days, will you end up with more money? The $5 hole, because you're almost assured that you're going to get it in every single time because it's so easy.
It's like skee ball.
You make 25% daily, but you're going to get that 25%, that $5. Where the $20, if you just keep trying to hit it into that $20 because it's a bigger return, but you're only getting it once a week or not even once a week, where are you? $0.
You just described skee ball and laser tag.
Right.
I was always really good at laser tag because I was not concerned at all with shooting other people. I would just go shoot the target.
Right.
I'd just like stand there like racking up so many points.
That's not fun.
Look, winning often isn't fun. You just do it. You do what you have to do. You understand the game and the objective, and that's fun.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Moving on.
So make it easier. And more consistent. That's the takeaway.
And then be consistent with the environment if you can, because context and cues also really matter for habit formation. So kind of doing things the same way, same time of day, same place if you can, helps really ingrain that. So it's more likely to stick, a new thing, if it's done that way, if it's performed in the same way, in the same environment, same place, same time.
Well, it's like a routine requires planning.
Mm-hmm.
A routine isn't necessarily a habit, but a routine can help build habits or solidify habits.
Oh, 100%. And that was the whole context of the post that I made today, which is that people focus really heavily on the change itself that they're trying to make, but they don't necessarily look at the context in which they're trying to do it. And oftentimes people's routines are not even often, usually all of the time. If you're not doing something, whatever the routine that you have in place you currently is probably working against you. And so you can think about that change all day long, but until you're willing to look at the context and the routine that you have and work there, probably it's going to continue to be hard. So you have to make it easier to win. Like if you want to win more, make it easier to win. That's it.
Yeah.
But cues specifically in context and time, space, in the type of doing matter because it reinforces like a specific feeling in the brain. It feels familiar. Like imagine if every day, if you're trying to build an exercise routine, but every single day you went to a different gym, right? Like you're introducing new barriers and new difficulty just by variety. And it's going to make it harder for that habit to stick. Whereas if you go to the same gym, same time of day, same class, same trainer, same whatever, it starts to get easier. And I'll give you an example, a personal example. And this is the great thing about habits, because almost everyone has these. I historically not a squeegee person, like in showers. If I have a glass shower, which I've had a number of glass showers in my life, I don't squeegee the glass. I hate that. And so I would just not, and then occasionally would clean it, and it was fine. And then I met you, and you are a squeegee person. And so we have had now a number of glass showers, but I squeegee our shower. And so when I think about squeegeeing a shower, I think about our shower in our house. And, every day when I take a shower, I finish, I turn the water off, I pick the squeegee up, and I squeegee the glass. And we have like a lot of glass. It's a lot of real estate to squeegee, but I do it every single time. I don't even think about it. It's just like, it's like part of my showering routine now. And now if there's a squeegee in any shower that's glass, even like an Airbnb rental, I'm like, squeegee. And, but I was not a squeegee the glass person, but I am now. And part of it is like, it became so reinforced in like a very specific shower that like, that's just, it has changed my identity.
Now you can generalize to other showers.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be a squeegee person if not for, it was one of those things when I was a kid where my mom had a big glass shower and it would be a treat to shower in there, but you would have to squeegee. And it was almost like as a kid, you don't know what happens if you don't squeegee.
Oh, yeah.
You just know it's bad.
Yeah.
And that you never should not squeegee.
Yeah.
So that's why I squeegee.
No, I didn't. That wasn't my experience. I also became the person that cleaned the glass more consistently. And I
Right.
think that, so then you do understand. You're like, it's like actually kind of hard to clean this thoroughly.
Oh, okay.
If you don't squeegee.
Okay.
Because of the buildup.
Right.
Especially here. Like the water here is ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
The other things that contribute to habit formation, reward reinforcement, so things that feel good. And this is just like classical conditioning. So do a thing, get a reward. The brain is more likely to repeat that behavior. I mean, like, it's rats in a maze, Alex.
I trained a rat once.
Oh, yeah? Did you name it?
I can't remember. I don't think so.
Yeah.
To do a sequence of things.
Mm-hmm. So, for my ADHD brain, the way that this works sometimes is that I will connect two things. So if there's a thing, like a habit or something that I'm not stoked on, like, I don't know, doing dishes,
Most
folding laundry.
things. Most things Alex does.
Yeah. Honestly, like I hate folding laundry. And sometimes I don't feel like doing a deep clean on the kitchen, but I put music on. So I reward myself during, like, for me, it's during the task, by tethering it to something that I really like. So, music, podcast, something like that. Or after, I make sure I will take a moment and
go on Instagram.
Yeah, whatever. Create some dopamine. And then, within new habits, like around health, there's certainly a reward that comes from a sense of progress. And that is what makes progress-based habits and goals sort of intrinsically rewarding if someone's willing to like recognize the progress that they're making. So that's why when we talk about physical progress, when someone's working hard in the gym and they're improving their nutrition or whatever, you can absolutely, and like most people are very capable of focusing on what they're not doing yet, what they can't do, how much better their friend is doing,
what they should be able to do.
Should be doing, yeah, they can get really negative. And that doesn't have a good effect on habit. That's like the opposite of what we want. But if someone is willing to reflect more positively and pick out things that they feel like they're doing well, then those things are likely to repeat themselves. And I don't know if you remember a while ago we talked about deposits in the like, you basically think about one thing every day that you are proud of or that went well. And you think about it before you go to bed. This kind of like the skill formation, like the golf swing, but this is more sort of mindfulness, self-image type of things. And you focus on that for 5 to 10 minutes as you go to bed. You kind of play it over in your head. You repeat it. You let yourself feel those good feelings again. And that builds that habit, that reinforces whatever that is. And what that is could honestly just be self-image and self-confidence and a more positive outlook about yourself. But certainly if you're working in a way to improve something or make a change, finding something to reflect on that's positive is a hugely, hugely underestimated tool for creating reward in the process.
I mean, even just checking a box, an actual check of a box, whether it's, even in an app, like a button, or deleting something off of a to-do list, or crossing something off, or even like if you have a calendar, like X marks the spot, I did that today, is incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
People like streaks. Again, that's a little all or nothing, but.
Yeah. There's personal factors that contribute to what people select to do. So understanding those matter. Understanding, like, picking things that do provide immediate rewards. Like, we're such a delayed gratification society. And I know we already talked about this with, like, I eat my muffin top first, and that makes you a crazy person. But, having some immediate gratification somewhere in the process is nice.
It's not about immediate gratification with the muffin top. It's about reducing delayed disappointment. Because the rest of the muffin never tastes as good.
Well, that's the thing. But sometimes I don't want the rest of the muffin, and I'm aware of
You're that person that eats the muffin top and then just like leaves the rest of the muffin.
Yeah, but here's the thing. For me, that makes more sense than eating a whole muffin that I don't really want just to get to the muffin top. Like,
wait, I have an idea. What if we had a business where we only made the tops of muffins?
Alex, that definitely already exists.
It was a Seinfeld reference.
Oh. I don't know that episode. Wait, do I?
Yeah, I think Elaine starts a business with the muffin tops.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then someone else steals her idea.
Yes, that's where I know that from.
Right.
But also that business does exist. Like,
oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay. That took me a second. That was going way back in the archives. Yeah, okay. So let's talk about some tools for implementing habits. So habit stacking, again, that's one that we've used in our habit challenge before. That's also popularized by James Clear in Atomic Habits, and that's really just like taking a habit that you already have in place and putting with it a new habit that you don't have put in place. So an example might be, let's talk about supplements. So if you have a habit of having a glass of water every morning, but you don't have the habit of taking the supplements, then you just do them together. And how convenient, because you need a glass of water to take the supplements anyways. You put one with the other. Another habit might be, let's say you want to read more, or you want to read like, a news article or a Wall Street Journal article or something financial related, but you have trouble carving out time. But you know that you sit and scroll on Instagram while you drink your coffee every morning. So instead of, you have your coffee, that's a habit. And instead of scrolling on Instagram, you read your, New York Times article or Wall Street Journal article or whatever it is that you want to read more. And so those two go together. And then it becomes like, oh, coffee, reading. Instead of coffee, mindlessly scrolling. What are some, can you think of any others?
Of habit stacking? I mean, going back to like flossing, if you brush your teeth, flossing can be a next thing. Mm-hmm. Again, like some people skip it, but yeah, I mean, the showering mm-hmm. and squeegeeing is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, those are like more sequential. Something like if you listen to a podcast, like a news podcast every day, and you also want to get in more steps, like increase your non-exercise activity, maybe you only listen to your news podcast while you're walking. So instead of sitting and listening to the podcast, you're still listening to the podcast, but you're combining it with activity.
Right. But I still think sequential habits can be stacking.
Yeah.
Like mobility occurs after you run. For me, like if running is a very daily thing that I do,
yeah,
it's easier for me to just do mobility right after than like go back into the gym or re-engage in a completely separate routine apart from my activity for the mm-hmm. day.
Yep. Intentions. So this is getting a little frou-frou, but daily intentions, I think identifying what it is that you want from the day and identifying habits or things that you definitely want to do and get out of your day can help. And an intention can be specific items, or it can be a feeling. It can be, here's how I want to feel today. So you can use it either way. But certainly like spending some time in mindfulness early in the day can help with behavior change and with habit formation for sure. Also good to understand and recognize that most people are really, really ambitious with their planning for the day. And I had this validated recently, again, by a therapist, because, Alex, you don't struggle. You are ambitious, but also fairly accurate with what you can get out of your day. And I'm very ambitious and often fall short when I identify. And that's not because I'm like doing a bad job. That's because things come up and they disrupt me, and it doesn't mean that I'm not being productive. Things just change. And so I think understanding your tendency there and how best to use a tool like intentions or to-do lists in a way that isn't going to just increase frustration. Because I think if you're not aware of your own personal limitations and you put a tool like that in place, it would quickly become, well, why isn't this working for me? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, you haven't acknowledged the fact that you are very overly ambitious with what you can get accomplished in the day because you're kind of time blind mm-hmm. and you are prone to distraction, which is great because that's where a lot of your magic comes from. But it means that like plans are going to change and you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Identity-based habits is another tool that James talks about a lot in his book, and we talk a lot about, and it's the way that like really the internal language can affect how you see yourself and then what you do. And so the identity, we've talked about kind of reinforcing like a feedback loop there. If you see yourself in a certain way, like I'm a runner instead of I run, then you start to select behaviors and habits that are associated with that identity, and they feel very like synergistic and like one, versus like I am an accountant, I run, right? Like it may not, it may feel kind of disconnected there.
Yeah, or another example would be I am someone who cares about their cardio health, or I am a runner. That's more simplistic. Versus I have to run, or I can't go out with for drinks with my friends because I have to go and exercise. What you're doing with the latter language there is you're reinforcing the identity of a person who wants to go out for drinks after work, which is fine. But if you're trying to break the habit of drinking, or you're trying to build a habit of exercise, reinforcing that identity through language isn't very productive.
Yeah.
I can't eat that. That's you're reinforcing the identity of someone who wants to make that decision, who values eating whatever X. Whereas if your language is, I am a person that chooses nutrient dense meals on a schedule, you're reinforcing that new identity that you want to build, which ultimately helps to drive your habits and your behaviors. So it's like that language is so valuable.
Yeah.
And can be extremely unproductive. I can't have a drink. I mean, that just makes you want to drink more.
Right. Tell a kid they can't do something, what happens?
Right.
I straight up, like, our nephew the other day was like fiddling with an indoor bike, and I was basically like, don't touch that. It can like cut your finger off. And he didn't, but then he was walking away and he literally just put his finger on it. And I was like, that's wild, you know?
But adults are no different.
I know. And it's like, it helps to realize that. And I think there's this thing that occurs when people are trying to adopt identity-based habits, where they might struggle in adopting the identity when they don't feel like they really own it yet. And that there's kind of this awkward in between where you might feel a bit of imposter syndrome. You might feel silly calling yourself a runner when like what you do is run walk. Mm-hmm. You might feel silly calling yourself like an athlete or a gym goer when you just started working out 3 months ago. So acknowledged, noted, it's a thing. It's an awkward in between phase. It happens for us in other areas. It happens to anyone that chooses growth.
I mean, imagine me here sitting at work calling myself a computer whiz every day. Because one day I'm going to be one.
One day you're going to stop doing math on your phone calculator and typing numbers into Excel. One day that's going to stop happening.
But I own it.
You do.
If someone says, how are you at technology? I say I'm a whiz.
I am a wizard. I went to computer camp. I write code. So yeah, it's a thing that happens, and what I'll say is like, hang in there, because all jokes aside, Alex does not call herself a computer whiz.
No, I would never do that. But I do call myself a swimmer, and I walk around with an arena backpack.
You do. I love that for you. Like, people think she's a swimmer.
They do.
She is a swimmer.
I am. Mm-hmm. I have the broad shoulders too.
Yeah, and when they ask, you probably don't say, well, I just started swimming, because like, you own it, right? And it does. Like, you select to go to the pool now. Like, you look at swimming workouts. You watch swimming videos. Like, You do things that maybe you wouldn't intuitively do otherwise. Yeah, so, like I said, hang in there. It's hard for everybody, but it gets better. And then once it gets better, it gets awesome. When you look at, real world applications, and we don't need to, like, talk about this a ton. I have an issue, like, when we talk about high performers and entrepreneurs and athletes or whatever, and how they use habits, like I struggle with putting certain people on pedestals because you don't really know. I think that there are plenty of case studies that are actually large enough in scope and looking at normal people that understand the impact of a morning routine, or exercise in the morning, or mindfulness in the morning, and changing outlook and mood and intention in a day. And routines especially morning routines are habits a lot of the time. So that, I think there's relevance there. I think high performing people do have like highly optimized habits. I think especially if you're looking at athletes, they've automated a lot of things that people struggle with. They have we can sit here as non-professional athletes, and it's not hard for us to get into a gym. When we get into the gym, there's a flow to it because we have such a high level of understanding of what we're doing. And so we're just like automatically going to get more out of that time than someone who's just starting out. But the reality is, like, you can't get to the point where you have any flow with any new thing that you're doing if you don't spend time with it, and it will come.
Yeah, and you also have to take the time to identify what friction needs to be reduced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's going to come up, what the difficulties are going to be when you start a gym routine. And maybe the 20-minute drive is the friction. Like, you can't make it happen.
Yep.
So then you have to pivot and think, okay, maybe it is worth buying a couple sets of dumbbells because that's the only way I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what athletes have done over the course of years. They've not only made it easier by doing it more, but they've, through doing it, understood, like, what friction do I need to remove here?
Yeah. And then, outside of the athletic space, maybe someone is an entrepreneur, like a business owner, and they're struggling with finances or output, or they feel like they don't have enough time, but they also are cooking dinner every single night from like a new recipe. So picking out things that you don't actually care about, that you're spending a lot of time on, that you can simplify and automate. That's how high performers use habits. They put automations in place to take guesswork out of things that you don't need to be making decisions. This does not need to be taking up your time or your mental bandwidth. So automate it.
Even choosing clothing can be, whether you choose clothing at night or you don't choose clothing. Yeah. You just have a uniform of sort.
There's, and I won't go down a long rabbit hole here, but there's, beauty standards for women. And I listened to this really interesting podcast recently about Black women in the like U.S. economic system, and basically how there's a literal cost to adopting an aesthetic that's perceived more highly in workplaces, and that cost is time to do braids, to have hair done, to do makeup, to look a certain way, to have like greater success in your career. And that's a cost that's disproportionately put on women, and it's like even more disproportionately put on Black women. And it's unfortunate. I mean, we're moving in the right direction, I think, with that.
Thanks to Pamela Anderson.
Right. Yeah, a lot of other people. Like, you're seeing more Black women wear their hair naturally, and that saves time. And time is money. Time is opportunity. Sitting in a chair for 10 hours and getting braids put in is lost opportunity.
Right.
And that's not something that men have to do, and it's not something that white people have to do. And so that's just, it's kind of, that's not something that necessarily people choose, but it is something that it is an example of like, here's where time can go. So if we can remove that and get rid of that to some degree, that's generally a good thing. Should we wrap this up?
Let's do it.
Okay. Key points and takeaways. I will say systems outweigh motivation, because motivation isn't real. Willpower is not a good tool. Don't use it. Habits are shortcuts for our brain. Get used to using them. Change happens by tweaking the loop, not just by taking action. Start small, really small, smaller than you think, and stay consistent with that for longer than you think you need to.
Choose something that you feel 9.5 out of 10 confident that you can do every single day for the next week.
Yeah, actually, that is your challenge.
When someone sets a goal, when one of my clients sets a goal for the week, I say, how confident are you that you can achieve that goal out of 10? 10 being absolutely no doubt about it, and 0 being no chance I could even do it once.
Yeah.
If the answer isn't at over 8, then we need to really back it off. Yeah. Why? Why is it an 8, not a 9? And that's when you start identifying the friction.
Yeah.
And how do you make it easier or more doable? Maybe the action isn't easier, but things around it are different.
Yeah.
Maybe it just takes one task that is the domino effect for the task later on. Like, I want to eat lunch every single day this week. How likely do you think you can do it? 5. Why? Well, because like I usually don't even know what to eat. All right, let's make a shopping list today and you're going to go and do that. And then it's done.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm 9 out of 10.
That's an awesome takeaway.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you for listening to this one. Thanks
welcome.
for being here, Alex. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Everyone here, like, subscribe, share, do all the things. Make sure you get in the loop on our habits challenge, which is starting up. And we appreciate you listening as always, and we'll catch you in the next episode.